let's talk about my most recent mistake with the car. So I posted a video before in my last YouTube video, and I'll include it in this one to compare, but it was spitting fuel, and I had thought the biggest problem was that, one, I didn't plug in my O2 sensor. Two, it had 110 in it and it's tuned for 85. So I thought, okay, it's just a different fuel and it doesn't know what it needs because there's no O2 sensor. And so I completely just thought, hey, that's what it was. So we were working on it last night, which was November 2nd. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna drain the fuel, I'm gonna put 85 back in it, and I'll see if it runs. I thought about swapping their plugs because I thought it fouled out the plugs. And so I'm like, okay, let's do this. I start it and it won't idle. Like, why won't it idle? It has 85 in it now.
Hi, do you know?
So like I was saying, I started it and it wasn't idling. So I'm like, okay, why is it not idling? I'm like, are the plugs really fouled that bad? It's still pouring fuel everywhere. Like I know it's normal for fuel to come out the exhaust, but I mean pouring fuel. So I'm like, what is going wrong here? And so of course I call Jack and I'm like, hey, what could cause this? And he's like, well, I don't really know. Are you able to look at your closed loop compensation to see what's going on there? What's your fuel pressure at? You know, and so I'm looking at everything. I'm starting logs, even though there's not much time for it to catch anything. And so luckily there was enough that I pulled the SD card out, came in the office, came in here, put it in the computer, and I was looking at my log and I'm like, holy shit. At one point it was pushing 100. So at one point it was actually pushing 147 pounds of fuel per hour, which is like insane, comparable to 40 pounds of boost because my map sensor was maxed out. So I'm like, what is causing that? And I look at my KPA and it's at 500. My map sensor was maxed out. I'm like, and my throttle position sensor was off too. I'm like, what are we doing here? And so of course I tell Jack and he's like, it thinks you're pushing 40 pounds of boost. Why is your map sensor maxed out? What is going on? There's something wrong. So I'm like, okay, let me chase it. Well, I have an adapter for my map sensor to plug into my Holly, and apparently one way or another that adapter didn't get plugged in correctly. It was backwards. And so I immediately am checking that and I'm like, this doesn't look right. It's not plugged in all the way. And so my dad comes over before I even get a chance to do anything and he's like, this is backwards. And so we flipped it and started it, and guess what? It ran great. It was amazing. And my old plugs are still fine because they were just drenched in fuel. So at least I'm not out of set of plugs. I will include pictures of me swapping my plugs. We did find out that the easiest way to swap my plugs is to pull the front tires while it's jacked up. So that is interesting and that's fun to know. It seems like a little bit extra work, but honestly it was so fast, like faster than I could even change them before I had all the turbo stuff. So I think that's a good thing, and at least I can get to them that way. But I'm excited to have the car figured out and know what's going on now, so hopefully someone can learn from my mistake. But it was really cool to see what just flipping one plug could cause, so I'm kind of intrigued by that, and I got to learn more. I got to see my own data log, I got to understand it. I'm a very hands-on person, so seeing that was like, oh my gosh, these tuning videos I've been watching, it's all starting to make sense. So very exciting night, but made a mistake. It turned out for the best. As promised, a couple photos of me changing my spark plugs. As always, thank you to all of my sponsors who continue to help me out and make all of this possible. It would not be possible without everyone that continues to help me, so thank you to everyone for that, and I'm excited for everything that is to come in the future.